Hey up everyone, now in today's video I've got to talk about the mega main event coming along this Saturday, which is Petr Yan taking on Deiveson Figueiredo, and I cannot wait for this fight. I think it's great matchmaking, I think it's going to be a very fun fight, but it also upsets me because I don't want either one of them to lose. Now before I start yapping about the juicy main event, I want to talk about the card in general. It's not a great card, I don't think it's terrible, you got some decent names on there. It does take place in China, so the card is like pretty much just full of a lot of Asian fighters, which is kind of guaranteed with a lot of these fight night cards what take place in foreign countries. That's expected, don't mind that at all. But there's a couple of fighters that I've really got to keep an eye out on, and I believe you guys should as well. Now early on this card, we're going to see an undefeated prospect known as Loner Kavanagh. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, Loner Kavanagh, 7-0, undefeated prospect. I also believe that he's meant to be English as well as somewhat Chinese. I think that's another reason why they put him on this China card. I actually thought he would be Irish, given the name, you know, very Irish name. So yeah, but according from doing research on him, he's English and Chinese. Nice little prospect. He's got 4 wins by knockout, 2 by decision and 1 by submission, and on the Dana White Contender Series he got a first round knockout, and a lot of people are looking very forward to seeing his UFC debut, and it happens this Saturday, and I can't wait to see what happens given that he's only 25 years old, which is very young. And whilst we're on the topic of undefeated prospects, we've got another one on the card, and that is Wang Kong. She will be on the main card, and she had an impressive UFC debut a fair few months back where she knocked out her opponent in the first round. Now there's a lot of hype around Wang Kong, also known as the Joker, because she actually beat Valentina Shevchenko in either kickboxing or Muay Thai. I can't remember which one it was, but she was able to defeat Valentina Shevchenko. And I was going to make a video about Wang Kong, but I'm a bit lazy. But yeah, she defeated Valentina Shevchenko, and she's pretty much like the female version of Alex Pereira. When I say that, she has like a similar story. Obviously, Alex Pereira beat Israel Adesanya outside of UFC, came to UFC, and obviously beat Israel Adesanya. And Wang Kong is looking to do the same in the UFC, the same as Alex Pereira. She beat her in kickboxing while outside the UFC, and then now in the UFC, she's eyeing a rematch against Valentina, is looking to beat her again. And then we move on up to the light heavyweight division, and there's a fight on this card I'm looking quite forward to, and that's between Volkan Ozdemir and Carlos Ulberg. Now I personally can't wait for this fight. I'm looking very much forward to it because both of these guys are on a bit of a run. You know, Volkan's got 2 victories in the first round in his last 2 fights, one over Johnny Walker with a knockout. Well, let's be honest, everyone knocks out Johnny Walker. And then you have Carlos Ulberg, who's only fought once this year because he's had a few cancellations, and he beat Alonzo Menifield in the very first round and has been looking very impressive recently. I actually thought Ulberg was a lot younger than he is. He's actually 34. I thought he'd be a bit younger, but being in the light heavyweight division, you're able to get away with being a bit older, and he's taking on Volkan, who's 35, who's, you know, a UFC veteran at this point, fought for the title against DC before, and has been around the block, fought the who's who of the light heavyweight division, and this is a very solid test for Carlos Ulberg in my opinion, and I can't wait for this fight. Who do I think is going to win? I'm not entirely sure. I want to say Carlos Ulberg because he's one of the few light heavyweights I actually like watching. There's not many light heavyweight fighters I like watching other than Alex. Well, no. Other than Alex Pereira, Yuri Praska, shut the fuck up, because I actually like a few light heavyweights now that I come to think of it. But Carlos Ulberg's another one of those fighters. Volkan can be quite messy, but it's also quite effective and works in his favour. I'm very excited for this fight. Again, a big step in competition for Carlos Ulberg, and I'm just so interested to see whether he can pass the test. And then for the co-main, we have Zhang Jianan taking on Tabitha Ricci, and it's just whatever. Not really that bothered. I'm excited to see Zhang Jianan fight again, given that her last fight against Zhang Weili was an absolute banger, and I actually feel sorry for her and Zhang Weili because everyone seems to forget about that fight, even though it was on the biggest card of all time, UFC 300. But obviously Max Holloway just knocked out Justin Gaethje, and everyone was just kind of deflated after that. And then you had Zhang Weili and Zhang Jianan have this absolute fucking banger. She pushed Zhang Weili to the limit, made it very competitive, had a hurt at moments. And yeah, just an absolute banger, and everyone seems to forget about it, but now she's taking on Tabitha Ricci, and I think she's going to get the W. Listen, Ricky's 29, she's still up and coming. Zhang Jianan's 35, but I don't think she's fully fell off yet, unless she took too much damage against Zhang Weili or whatever. Maybe she's not, whatever it may be. I still think she's going to get the win against Tabitha Ricci. Ricci, her last fight, you know, she beat Angela Hill. Everyone really beats Angela. I like Angela Hill, I like her a lot, but everyone beats Angela Hill, who's at the top of tier of that division. So I think Zhang Jianan, I'm gonna go by decision. Now that I'm done yapping about all that shit on the rest of the card, let's get into the important stuff, the actual necessary stuff, and that is the main event between Petr Yan and Deiveson Figueiredo, and I cannot wait for this fight. I love both Petr Yan and Deiveson Figueiredo. I'm going to be rooting for Petr Yan because I love him more. You know, it's like which kid do you prefer? You know, I prefer Petr Yan, but I still love both my kids. You know what I mean? I'm going with Petr Yan for this one. I just can't wait for this fight, though. I'm going to be upset because one of them's got to lose, even though I believe that Figgy's going to lose. If Yan loses, I don't know what I'm going to fucking do with myself, but let's not even consider that. But I just can't wait for this fight. This is an absolute banger. You know, back in 2020, 2019, these guys were on top of the world when it comes to their weight divisions. Petr Yan was on top of the world when it came to the bantamweight division, and same goes for Figueiredo at the flyweight division. I always remember that time he massacred Joseph Benavidez, and I believe that's the most dominant title performance I've ever witnessed. Dropped him like 4 times in one round and then finished it off by submitting him in the first round. It was absolutely brutal. And then you had Petr Yan just putting on absolutely masterclass fights, like against Jose Aldo, destroying a washed and old Uriah Faber, but it was a very good finish. And then having that fight, the first fight of Aljamain Sterling as well. It was a great time. And now they meet in the bantamweight division. And the reasons why I think that Petr Yan's going to win this, I just think he's better overall. I think that's what it's going to come down to. I think he's going to lose that first round like he usually does. People always say, oh, that Song Yadong fight was quite close. Not really. He won the last two rounds, 2 and 3, quite convincingly, and it was quite obvious for him. But that first round he lost because, again, he loses the first round of pretty much every single fight he does. And not only that, he always struggles in 3-round fights, like we saw in the Sean O'Malley fight. He's just much better in 5-round fights because he fights better over a longer period of time. And with Figueiredo, he fights good for 5 rounds as well. We've seen him do it a few times, mainly against Brandon Moreno. But when it comes to the bantamweight division, the most success that I feel like Figgy has had is when it comes to the grappling. Now, I don't believe that Figgy's grappling is going to be great enough to be able to nullify Petr Yan for 5 rounds. Maybe over 3 rounds, I would have been a bit more confident for him. But for 5 rounds, I just don't see it. I mean, Merab spammed about, 50 takedowns against Petr Yan and only succeeded with about 6 of them, 8 of them. Less than 10, you know, so... And I believe Merab is just more of a grinder. And I don't know, I just don't see Figueiredo having a stupid amount of success like he has against the like of Font and Cody Garbrandt, and I believe he used a bit against Marlon Chito Variant, and I also know on the feet Figueiredo's no joke, but I think Petr Yan is on a completely different level when it comes to the striking against Figueiredo. I think Figueiredo has great striking, but he was struggling a bit on the feet against Cody Garbrandt. He couldn't really work him out, and that's where we saw him use his grappling, and then he used that grappling furthermore in the second round, was able to get the victory. And when it comes to Chito doesn't have the best of striking, let's be honest. He's just a durable guy, very good fitness, and good shot selection, timing of his shots, and good power. But I just don't think it's going to be enough to defeat Petr Yan. I really can't wait for this fight. 2 former champions. I think this is great matchmaking. I think if Figgy wins, I think it's fair to say he deserves a title shot next, beating Rob Font, beating Cody Garbrandt, beating Chito Vera, and beating Petr Yan. I think all within the span of a year is absolutely very much impressive, and I wouldn't mind him fighting Merab for the title, but I know they'll want to give it to Umar. If Petr Yan wins, as much as I love my bias to get to me and to give him a fucking rematch against Merab, he would have to prove it against another fighter. Who that fighter may be, maybe a rematch against Sean O'Malley, maybe a fight against Henry Cejudo, but I'm being too nice with Henry Cejudo there. maybe a rematch between him and Corey Sandhagen. There's a few options there. I don't know, maybe Mario Batista, I don't know. But there's a few options there, and I'd feel like if Petr Yan wins, he should have to fight, maybe pick up another win in order to get a title shot, because it's kind of hard to take 3 back-to-back-to-back losses, get a couple of wins and say, yeah, he deserves a title shot again. I wouldn't blame Petr Yan for asking for one, but would he deserve one? I'm not entirely sure. Me being biased, I would say yes, but deep down, would he? I'm not entirely sure. Again, would be a very fun fight though. I can't wait to see how this one goes. And, oh man, I don't know what more to say about this. This is just great matchmaking, and this is a great main event for a Fight Night card. These are the sorts of caliber of main events I want to see. Not fucking, you know, Derek Lewis and some random dickhead and fucking Rosenstruck and Gaziev and, you know, shit like that. Nobody wants to see that sort of stuff. These are the types of main events we want to see on Fight Night cards. But let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about this juicy main event? And also, what do you think about the rest of the card? Are you a fan of it? Are you not a fan of it? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.